All right, guys. For today, I'm going to go over the understanding supply worksheet. So you should have the understanding supply notes done. I know it's kind of a handful of pages in there. Regular class, we would have kind of broken it up, done a page or two of the notes, did some worksheets, and then went back and finished the notes. But hopefully, you got those 3 or 4 pages done because that brought you through everything we need to know on supply. So everything from how firms or businesses are impacted by profits and costs to what causes the change in quantity supplied versus the change in overall supply, which is what the worksheet's going to ultimately focus on now. Okay, so just like we did with demand, okay, we're looking at how does a change in supply different from a change in quantity supplied. So let me quick see if I can still. Yep, I do. All right, so this might help just to kind of go through that real quick. So remember we talked about our 2 access points. This is price, this is quantity. Now, this is not going to be very clean looking, but all right, so here's our supply curve. All right, so remember if we're moving between 2 points on the curve, all right, so if we're moving from point A to point B, all right, we see price is going up, all right? As I go from point A to point B, price went up. And in this case, our quantity supplied also increased, right? So that movement from our notes, the movement along the curve is always and only caused by a change in price, and we call that a change in quantity supplied, okay? And then our other options, here goes my dogs, is when the entire supply curve shifts, okay? So now our entire supply curve is shifting. And this is not caused by price, because regardless of price, overall supply is either increasing with a shift to the right, this is looking really sloppy, guys, I apologize, or overall shifting with an increase or decrease by shifting to the left, all right? So something other than something else is causing more supply to the market or less supply to the market. And our options we went through in our notes, which we'll look at in the worksheet today, are input costs, government policies, number of firms, technology, weather, or expectations, okay? So again, we have to make sure we see that difference, all right? Price is the only thing that's going to cause this, all right? All right, quantity supplied caused by price movement along the curve. It's something else in the market causing that change, it's going to be a shift of the supply curve, okay? So let's go back to the worksheet and we'll go through these, okay? Let me do the highlighter and I'll just highlight the answers as we go. Let's go with green. All right, so just like the demand assignment, this is set up the same way. We decided to identify after reading the situation, is it a change in supply or quantity supplied? Is it going to be causing an increase or a decrease? And then what's the factor causing it? So a coffee producer notices an increase in the coffee prices, all right, and responds by changing coffee production. Okay, so when we see it like that, when we see that kind of bang, bang, price changes, production changes, we know our answer is going to be without a doubt quantity supplied. Now again, talk yourself through this, all right? Because remember, we're not consumers now. When we're working on supply situations, we're looking at this from the producer's perspective. So if it says that there's an increase in coffee prices, all right, so in other words, that people are willing to pay higher prices, if I'm the producer, I'm going to increase supply. Remember, price and quantity work together with supply. So if price goes up, quantity supplied goes up. If price goes down, quantity supplied goes down. So in this case, if coffee prices are increasing, I'm going to increase supply. So if we chose quantity supplied there, our only option for an answer is going to be price. Number 2, a local bakery is able to obtain ingredients for making baked goods at a lower cost. All right, so let's talk about ingredients and cost of ingredients. So we know it's nothing to do with the price of the product. So we know that our answer is going to be a change in supply. Again, talk yourself through it if you're a business owner and the cost to produce. So it's lower costs. So if my costs are going down, it's costing me less to make my product, I'm going to sell more, right? Because that hopefully means more profits for me. If it's costing me less to make it, I'm going to increase my supply. All right, so we're going to increase supply, and then we have to look for which one best fits. In this case, we would say it's our input costs are causing that change in supply. All right, number 3, the government imposes a new tax on oil firms on each unit of output produced. So we see the word government, we see the word tax. So we know it's nothing to do with price, so it's another supply change, all right, based on our notes, and pretty simply put there, we see it's going to be government policies causing the change. So we want to identify, well, what's going to be the cost or increase or decrease. So again, talk yourself through it. If I'm a business owner and the government's imposing a tax on my product I'm producing, so that means costs for me. If I'm the business owner, I have to pay more taxes, so my costs go up. My supply will go down. We call that probably a decrease in supply due to the extra taxes. Number 4, a new technology, so there's one of our keywords, is discovered that enables firms to produce more output from the same quantity of input. So we know it's nothing to do with price, so it's a change in supply. That one's pretty much labeled for us. That's going to be an increase in supply because it's saying we're able to produce more output. And our answer, pretty straightforward, is technology. All right, the government, so there's our keyword, government, gives a pharmaceutical company's subsidy to produce COVID vaccines. So we know it's nothing to do with the price, so we know it's a change in supply. The government gives pharmaceutical companies a subsidy, so we know it's government policies. So what a subsidy is, and to answer that middle one, increase or decrease in supply, you have to know, going back to our notes, that a subsidy is when the government pays you to produce, all right? So if I'm a business owner or producer and the government's giving me a subsidy, that means they're going to give me money to produce my products. Well, I'm going to increase my supply because I'm not paying for the cost to produce. So that's all profit in my pocket, what I sell. All right, so I'm going to explode the market with my products since it's not costing me anything. Number 6, how is current ebook supply impacted when book publishers have an expectation that ebook sales will surge in the next year and prices will rise? All right, so if I'm a producer and I know that more people are going to want to buy ebooks and prices are going to go up and they'll be willing to pay a higher price, I want to sell my products later, all right? So thinking of that, we know it's a change in supply, because it's talking about a future price, not the current price. All right, so we know it's not price is our answer. A lot of students want to choose price as our answer here. It's going to be the expectations as our answer. So it's asking, though, how is current ebook supply impacted by this? Well, if we know that the prices are going to, the demand and the prices are going to go up in a month from now or whatever, or in a few months next year, then my current demand is going to decrease, or sorry, my current supply is going to decrease. This is why companies have warehouses, right? In this case, it's digital warehouse, I guess, but for the real products like, clothes and other products that they know people are going to be willing to pay more a month from now, they just stockpile it on a shelf until that higher price can be got. Okay. Number 7, Nike sees the price of LeBron shoes decrease, so Nike changes production. All right. So nothing to do with, we know, since it's saying the word price there, and that causes that change in production, we know it's going to be caused by a change in quantity supplied. Sees the price of LeBron shoes decrease. Well, they're going to supply less to the market, so quantity supplied will decrease. If we chose quantity supplied here, we only have one answer option over here. That's price. Number 8, mini drones have become so popular that there are now many companies producing them. All right, nothing to do with price, so I know it's a change in supply. All right, mini drones have become, we see popularity, and many companies are now producing them. So we can identify that as an increase in supply due to the number of firms producing the product. Number 9, the federal government reduces, all right, so we see the term government, and it reduces the regulations on the steel and coal industries. Has nothing to do with price, so we know it's a change in supply. All right, sometimes I jump right over to this one. We know it's government policies is our answer. All right, because now this one, sometimes the one that students struggle with figuring out which way it's going to go. Okay, so again, talk yourself through it, going back to the notes. All right, regulations tend to cost, the more regulations tend to cost producers more money, right? If there's an increase in regulations, there's an increase in cost to the producer. If it's costing me more to produce, I usually decrease supply. All right, so this scenario is saying they're reducing regulations. So if my regulations that I have to follow are going down, my costs as a producer are coming down. Well, if it's costing me less to produce, you can probably assume that there's going to be an increase in supply of that product to the market. Massive hurricane hits the Gulf of Mexico, damaging many of the oil rigs producing oil. So nothing to do with price. We know it's a change in supply. All right. If a bunch of the oil rigs are damaged, we can assume there's going to be a decrease in supply of oil to the market. And we can pretty clearly see that this is going to be caused by weather and natural disaster. Okay, number 11, Apple sees the price people are willing to pay for AirPods rise. So we see price willing to pay is going up. So they change production. So there's that bang, bang. Price changes, production changes. So we know it's a change in quantity supplied. All right, if the price people are willing to pay is going up, price and quantity work together in supply. So if price goes up, quantity supplied goes up. So we're going to increase supply of AirPods to the market if people are willing to pay more. And if quantity supplied is our answer there, we know price is our only option on the last column. Number 12, the wood to make fences increases in price, causing fence producers to change their production of fences. All right, so it's talking about the production of fences, not the wood, okay? So we gotta see that if the wood is going up in price, all right, I'm gonna jump right over here and say that's an input cost. So we know our answer here is supply. So if the cost to make my fences is going up, we're probably gonna see the supply of fences to the market go down, right? Does that make sense? Because if it's costing me more to produce, I'm probably not gonna sell as much. All right, or I'm not going to want to sell as much because my profits are going to be going down. All right, so we decrease supply to the market due to input costs. All right, 13, the government increases environmental regulations. So we see the word government, we see the term regulations on car producers like Chevy, Ford, and Dodge. All right, so we know our answer is government policies. We know it's a change in supply. Now we just have to determine, is that going to increase or decrease supply? So if the government's increasing regulations, that usually increase costs. So my supply is going to go down. Right? Again, you're thinking from that business owner's perspective. If it's costing, I know this sounds very repetitive by me saying this, but if it costs me more to produce, my supply is going to go down because it's eating into my profits. Fewer companies are making digital cameras due to phones having high quality cameras. All right, so it's just talking about the main statement is fewer companies. So we know it's a change in supply, nothing to do with price. What's going to happen to the supply of cameras to digital cameras to the market is decreasing due to the number of firms in that market. Fewer companies, fewer firms producing digital cameras. And number 15, the price people are willing to pay for smoothies at the local shop is increasing. So we see price, willingness to pay is increasing. So we know it's a change in quantity supplied. Price is going up, quantity supplied is going to go up. So it's an increase. And our cause is due to a change in price. Okay. All right, so that's the first supply assignment. Let's go through the second one, guys. A lot of these were kind of repetitive to the first one. I apologize for that. I thought I had updated. I updated this one. I thought I had updated the other one as well, but I must have just copy pasted a couple of them, very similar. But we'll go through it anyways. Make sure we're good on it. Okay, so number one, a coffee producer. Text box. A coffee producer notices an increase in coffee prices, responds by increasing coffee production. So this is quantity supplied. I'm just going to put QS for quantity supplied. If we're choosing quantity supplied, our only explanation is going to be a change in price. All right. So number two, local bakery is able to obtain ingredients for making baked goods at a lower cost. So we know that's supply. And our answer here is input costs. We don't even have to worry about doing increase or decrease on this one. Government collects a new tax from oil firms on each unit of output produced. So we know that's a change in supply. This one would be due to government policy, specifically taxes. Number four, a new technology is discovered that enables firms to produce more output from the same quantity of input. So nothing to do with price, that's a change in overall supply due to a change in technology. Number five, the government gives firms a subsidy for each unit of the good that's produced. So it's again a change in overall supply, nothing with price. So we know it's not quantity supply, it's just a change in supply. Answer here is going to be government policies again. And let's put the specifics down. What type of policy? It looks like this one's referring to subsidies. And I'm just saying that, guys, making sure we see the difference between taxes, subsidies, and regulations, just so if you do have to identify if that's going to cause an increase or a decrease, you'd be able to. Okay. Book publishers have an expectation that ebook sales will surge in the next year. Same ones from the last one. So this is supply again due to expectations. Price of oil decreases, more oil is produced. So this is our QS, quantity supplied. Our only answer here is price. All right, many drones have become so popular, there are now many companies producing them. They're very repetitive from the last assignment. So things kind of quick here. Supply. This is many companies. So this is number of firms. Our answer. All right, and if you didn't do the notes, guys, it's going to all sound this column here is that's all from the notes, right? The different causes of change in supply. Federal government reduces regulations on steel and oil and coal industries. So this is a change in supply due to government policies. And our answer here are regulations. The last one, a massive hurricane hits the Gulf of Mexico, damaging many of the oil rigs. So that's going to change overall supply, nothing to do with price. And we could say weather or environment. Okay. All right, guys, and then the last one here is just identifying, this goes back to that first part of the notes from the previous day here. Looking at the difference between fixed costs, variable costs, and then ultimately what's the total cost for a firm. Okay, so it says, suppose that Jessica and Elizabeth have done an exhaustive study on the cost of producing cups of lemonade. They must pay $50 every day to the city for the right to sell lemonade. So that's their permit. So We call that the fixed cost. This cost is fixed because it doesn't matter if they sell 50 cups or 0. All right, so that's why it's so important to know what your fixed costs are as a business owner, because your electric bill, your rent payments, all your bills still have to get paid. Even if you produce 0 units of output and make 0 profit, you still have some fixed costs involved, okay? Variable costs are different. Your variable costs are what change as production changes. So in this scenario, it says they must also pay $25 for every employee that they hire. All right, so let's say variable cost for zero, so it says $25 for every employee. We see here that our units of labor column, all right, is going to determine what our variable cost column is. All right, so let me just kind of type these in as we go. All right, so if I have 0 units of labor, my variable cost is going to be $0. I have 1 unit of labor, 1 times 25. It's going to cost me $25 for labor. I have 2 units of labor. I know it's going to cost me 25 times 2 because it goes back to $25 per employee. If I have 2 units of labor, 25 times 2 is 50. And you'll see this how it moves on. It's going to be pretty common here, right? So 50 is 75 because 25 times 3. Go to 4 employees, so 25 times 4 is $100 in variable cost. 25 times 5 gives me $125 in variable cost. And 25 times 6 is going to give me $150 in variable costs. All right. And then all you got to do for your total cost column, just add those across. All right, so 50, all right, plus 0 is going to give you $50 in total cost. All right, so the kind of key thing I want you to see here, guys, is even with total product, all right, so even if I sell 0 cups per hour, I'm still going to get a cost of $50, all right, even if I don't produce anything. So it's important to know your fixed cost. All right, so the next one then would be, what do we got, $75. $100, 50 plus 50. We got 125. And you can see the increments were going up right now. And my last one will cost $2. Okay. Now we can take this a step further. We're not going to, but we could figure out, okay, if what is it? What's the price or the profits from a cup of lemonade produced? All right, so then we can multiply product times how much they brought in, and then we could subtract that from our total cost to see if profits are being made. But we don't have to go to that extent. I just want you guys to kind of see how important fixed and variable costs are to production, right? That variable costs change as production changes. Fixed costs are there, whether you sell 0 cups of lemonade in this scenario, or you sell 80 cups of lemonade in this scenario, you're still going to have to pay that $50. So that's where fixed costs, knowing your fixed costs and the fact that the more you produce, the more you get to divide those costs over production, right? So if I sell 1 cup of lemonade, my fixed cost essentially costs $50 per lemonade, right? If I sell 50 cups of lemonade, now that $50 is dispersed among all 50 cups I sold, right? So now my fixed cost is $1 per cup of lemonade. All right, so just kind of identify how that works from our notes. Okay, that's it. You should have both those sets of worksheets done on supply. All right, so we went through the review part. You can go ahead and do the matching on your own. Then we also went through all the scenarios here on those 2 pages to make sure you have that done as well. All right, if you have any questions, send me a message on Remind or send me an email, please. All right.